Crazy Stupid Podcast.
Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, if this is your first time watching, we'd love it if you could hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell so that you are aware of when we post things.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Crazy Stupid Podcast. Let's talk about The Boys. The Boys is interesting to me because on the one hand, I feel like they have like a really good grasp on what they're trying to say. Like, it feels like there's a lot of self-awareness in the show, you know? Like, if it was any other show, I'd be like, oh, this is like almost too on the nose for like the commentary that you're trying to make. But because the show is so self-aware about how on the nose they are, like even that works. But then there's other ways where I'm just like, I feel like you actually don't at all realize. Because yeah, what they did to Hughie at Tech Knight's house, and then again in the very next episode with Annie, within the story, they are not acknowledging it. He essentially has been SA'd twice now.
Yes.
3 times. The story's not going to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a failure.
Like they kind of wrote it like he cheated on Starlight because he couldn't tell the difference between the two.
I've seen some people that are like, she's justified to be upset and like he should have known. They had her memories, but like they didn't have her personality, her mannerisms. And that is eventually how he realizes. And so some people are saying like, as soon as she was acting different, like he should have known. But I just think, guys, you're not going to make that assumption. Even having run into a shapeshifter the past couple days, I just don't think that that's going to be where your brain goes first.
He did notice some things, but maybe he's like, maybe I'm overthinking it.
Yes. Or I also think part of it was like he thought that she was like kind of coming out her like period of like, I guess kind of like depression or like what she had going on. Like he thought this was a sign of her getting better. The fact that she was acting different and suddenly had like, you know, just a lot more energy and excitement about things. That is a more plausible explanation than, oh, my girlfriend's a shapeshifter. I also just think like, even if you want to say Starlight's anger at him is like valid, I understand why you would feel that way. There still needs to be somewhere in the plot, there needs to also be some sort of acknowledgement of the fact that he is also a victim.
Yes. Because even in that scene after he gets rescued from that dungeon, very briefly, it was alluded to that the trauma that he just experienced, but then it shifted back to the pain and guilt he was feeling about his father.
His dad, yeah.
And it never allowed us to sit with that particular horrific moment.
I thought that scene was going to do that too. And then when he started talking and explaining, it was about his father, which is another, like, I mean, yeah, like that's another thing. I don't know. I feel like that was mishandled.
Yeah. I thought the season was good though. I did sort of feel like what they did with French and Kimiko's character, kind of feel like we've seen that before a little bit. The guilt, I don't feel good about myself because of the horrific decisions that I've made. Like Frenchie has been on that arc like at least twice already.
And they've resolved it?
To me, it's sort of like one of them was like he was using, then he stopped. And that felt like a growth moment. But then again, he started using again in this season. So it felt like we were relapsing just a little bit with his character growth. A-Train had some phenomenal character growth.
His arc, I
love it. When Emin was like, you were doing all that fake social justice stuff, and I think some of it stuck.
Yeah, I liked their scenes together.
I loved that line.
I loved their scenes
because
together.
That is like, that's one guy who is unapologetically black, and there's another dude who's kind of faking it a little bit, you know? And have those two together, brilliant. I love that. I loved it so much.
I love Black Brotherhood.
That little heartfelt moment where he finally felt like a hero, he needed that.
And also, I was honestly, the whole time, I was confused. I was like, why are we targeting Neuman and not Homelander? The more that you guys talk to her, she actually seems very...
Well, remember though, she took out all those senators.
She did do that. I forgot about that.
And she was trying to get into the White House, and she was sort of aligning herself with like terrible people.
Yes, but I'm like, it's very obvious that she doesn't actually believe the things that she's aligning herself with. I was kind of like, I do think we're focusing on the wrong problem.
Well, I will say I like Neuman's character, and especially that scene that she has with Sister Sage, where they try to have like a woman of color sort of bonding moment, which is true. Like they are experiencing like racism and sexism, like on like a microaggression kind of level, or like a ignoring your voice in the room of power for people. But I'm also like, you both are still siding with the side that is being extremely oppressive. It's just always hard for me to feel sympathy for marginalized groups who place themselves in alignment with the systems that are perpetuating that marginalization.
This is the thing that makes it hard for me personally. My thing is that you're throwing everybody under the bus when you do it. That's my issue.
Yeah.
With Sister Sage, it's like, I liked her character in that, like, her whole thing is like, when Homelander finds her, she is bored. Mm-hmm. Like, she's the smartest woman in the world and you just find her in her apartment alone. Like, it's clear that because she's the smartest person in the world, but she was born as a black woman, and so because of that, she is not being used to her potential, and that's clear, right? Like, in any other world, she was born anybody else, she'd be Tony Stark, okay? She'd be, and so
that's true.
He finds her like living this life that like she knows she's better than, like she knows, and because it's not a secret, people know she's the smartest one in the world. She's a superhero known for being that smart.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense for her life to look the way it does, except for the systemic barriers that are preventing her from being welcomed into the rooms that she should be in, right? I think she says something like, I could cure diseases. Like, the world knows that she has his capabilities and they're not calling on her, and that's nuts. And the first person to do it is Homelander. There is a part of this that it's like, perhaps if somebody else had come to her first, maybe we would not be
remember,
where we're
she
at.
says that with that loved one where she found a cure and they ignored her. If you had used that, capitalized on that moment, I actually think the world would have looked drastically different. Yeah.
Exactly. It's the fact that Homelander is the first person to come to her, seek her out, and to an extent until he doesn't, value her input. Yeah. And that's the reason why she does this. My problem with that mindset is, you're not the only black woman in the world, girl. What about all the other ones? Same thing with Neuman. It's like,
there's other daughters that in the world that you
like,
gotta
hello.
protect. Not just your daughter.
Like, what about all the other people that have been marginalized and the exact same way that you have been? Like, that is the thing that wasn't clicking for me.
Yeah.
Now, I do like that they're letting Sage just be a villain. I think Frankie's the one, I saw a video saying this, where she was like, not everybody has to be a Killmonger. Like, Sage just does it because she's bored and wants to see that she can do it. I do appreciate that. Like, that's good villain writing.
One other person that I think actually did have good character arc was Butcher.
Yeah.
I think that scene when he comes to terms that, like, this is it for him, and then he calls Hughie, has him see if he can go visit that spot that his brother wanted to go to. I was getting emotional, you know? And then also when his boss comes in and they're trying to flip Ryan, and you can see that, like, if you had just maybe just given Butcher a little bit more time, you could have given the two of them that relational moment that they both desperately needed. I was trying to make sense out of, like, Ryan's convictions, primarily where he says the line of, like, there are parts of it that I like, when he's referring to the life that he's living. At first, I was conflicted, like, maybe he's referring to, like, the bullying side of things, but I don't think that's what it was. Before that scene, it was when he gives that speech to the camera. I think it's a moment where Ryan sort of realized, wait, I could actually use this power that I have for good. Very similar to what A-Train got when he saved that life and the boy saw him at the hospital. And I felt like she wasn't trying to hear what he was trying to say in that moment. And you can see, like, Butcher was trying to tell, like, yo, just chill out for a second. Just let me talk to him, because I was getting through to him. When you frame it that way of, we need you to, essentially assassinate, take out your dad, it is jarring, because as terrible as Homelander is, there were moments where before Butcher went through his recovery arc, Homelander was the only one that, like, was, like, there for Ryan in a lot of respective ways. Like, it wasn't always the healthiest, but there were moments where they were genuinely bonding. That is a more long-lasting approach of, if he does this and takes out his dad, but you don't try to keep his humanity intact, like, you're just going to end up creating the same Homelander.
Yes. Oh man, the fact that his mom is no longer there is huge. I think the thing with Ryan is, one, I think what you were saying about what he liked about it, when he said that, I do think you're right. I think he liked not feeling powerless. And I think that was true in good ways and bad ways, right? Like, I think that he liked the feeling that he got when he went on that show and spoke up and said something. But we also saw that he did also like when he was able to make, like, the director that was, like, kind of, like, harassing
that one employee.
Yeah. He also enjoyed that interaction too. It started okay and it ended up feeling really weird, but he was happy at the end of that. that. I think he's just young.
Yes.
He's young and he's impressionable. I think right now what he knows is he likes the fact that he has the ability to do something, and everybody around him is aware that like how we influence that desire and that power and ability in him is going to influence how he decides to use it.
Yes.
But I think what he learned in that room was that everybody in his life is looking at him like that. He was all cool with Homelander when it felt like Homelander was just his dad who cared for him and, you know, whatever. As some of those interactions start to become weird and possessive and controlling and violent and unhealthy, I think Ryan starts to realize his intentions are not pure and selfless either. Like, I am also a tool to him. Like, he is also using me to create his like version of a mini him, essentially. Like, I am his tool to be, I think, in a way, to be immortal, like to just live on forever, because
he's dealing with his own mortality.
Yes, he's having a hard time with his own mortality. He realizes that he's not going to last forever because he's got gray hairs and stuff now. And so I think that Ryan is a tool, a way for him to try to like subvert that. Like, I can create another version of myself in this world that lives on. Like, this is my legacy that goes on forever. And Ryan starts to realize that in those unhealthy interactions. And so then he goes to Butcher, because in the last time that he saw Butcher felt like somebody who wasn't, he had no games.
Yes. No motives.
Right.
And so now it's not just about avenging his wife or taking out Homelander. It's also about protecting Ryan. And I think that is that's the difference between him and Homelander. At the moment, Ryan couldn't see it, but we as viewers can see that difference.
But that she threw with that all away.
I know.
She threw that all away with she got panicked, and she just, and it's like, no. He's a child. He is looking for somebody. His mom is no longer with us.
Yes.
He is looking for someone to love him as a person, not as a tool or a weapon or a legacy. Like, he's being dehumanized by all of these people, and he's looking for somebody that won't do that to him. And Butcher was it. I think where Ryan's arc is going, I think he's going to end up somewhere in the middle. After what happened, I don't think they're going to get him, especially now that Butcher's like off his rocker. He's gone completely left. We're not going to get Ryan completely, but I don't think he's going back to Homelander. I think he's going to sort of define and decide for himself.
Which that feels like a good place to take.
Where he's what he's going to do and how he's going to do it.
There's that moment where they're at that sort of like nut job, right wing expose sort of thing, and she gets angry at this one dude that's like pushing this idea of like these children that are being like trafficked to turn into fighters, and like she was one of them.
Talking about Kimiko.
Kimiko, yes. Okay. Obviously, it is a real thing, but the conclusion in terms of like who's behind it is what sort of makes it like a big conspiracy. And she kind of calls him out of like, if you actually did care about it, you would actually try and to stop this. It reminded me of that, I think it was the episode you were telling me about on Offline.
Oh, yeah. About, oh man, what was the phrase? About like factual beliefs and ideological beliefs. Yeah.
Do you want to unpack that a little bit?
Yes, I do. It's this idea that like we have two belief systems in our mind. I think I'm using the correct phrases, but I might not be. It's been a little bit.
Yeah.
But essentially the idea was like you have factual beliefs, like things that you believe and you know for a fact those things are true, like irrefutable facts. Like, I know that Adrian, my husband, is sitting right next to me right now. That is true. I know where my kid, I don't have kids, but if I had kids, like I know where they go to school.
You got two kids, those are kids.
There you go. I know what my bank is. Like, these are things that are just like true things. And then you have ideological beliefs, which are things that you believe, but it's like there's sort of like this cognitive dissonance happening where on some level, you know that this belief is not on the same level as a factual belief, even if you talk about it like it is.
Yeah.
And the example that they gave was like the whole Pizzagate thing, where they were like, people are saying that they factually believe that there is trafficking happening out of this pizza shop, but they are not behaving like they actually believe that to be true, except for the one man who did show up. But most people, like, he talked about how like they would go and leave really bad reviews for the restaurant and stuff. And it's like, if you genuinely believe that there were children in danger in the pizza shop, that's not what you would do.
Right.
Or how somebody made a review talking about how, I went there with my 10-year-old kid and the guy behind the counter was looking at him weird. If you factually
Why would you
believed,
take your kid there?
you would not have gone in there with your 10-year-old child.
Exactly.
So it's that idea of like, you believe these things and you act on them because part of the belief is to be a part of an in-group. The believing is the point. It puts you into this group of people on a certain level. Everybody within that in-group understands that this is not the same as a fact, even if we say we believe it is.
That Kimiko scene reminded me of that.
So sorry, I went on.
No, you're good. You're good. I felt like that was necessary because I hadn't listened to the episode. You did, so I appreciate you being able to do that. Again, she was saying like, if you did actually believe this, if you did actually care about it, you would go to try to stop this, not pushing these ideas out there, trying to make money off of it. Also, I'm not sure what we'll do with A-Train. It kind of seems like I
feel like they wrote him off, and I hope so.
Yeah,
honestly,
let
that man be happy, and also MM too. Don't bring that man. Oh, did he get captured at the?
Yeah.
Dang it.
He got dictured.
Gross.
Just captured.
I forgot how that went down.
Wrap around.
I so badly wanted him to just go and be with his wife, and we never see him again.
I know. I didn't know what the hell she was thinking, bro.
Listen here, lady. You wasted precious years with that scrawny
Crickets.
little white man.
He, to me, just feels like how you got these young dudes just idolizing Trump or Elon Musk. This desire to have this all-powerful white man that you can idolize. And what makes this show so interesting is I remember like my cousin Jordan saying that line of like, a lot of these guys that are on that red pill wave, they're almost looking for what is the closest thing to a god that they could admire. And a lot of times like billionaires is the closest thing that we could get to. And in this particular show, like Homelander is like the closest thing that you could have to a god. And that speech that he gives, like, I'm better, I'm stronger. Like you saw this, he kind of gets closer to the television, like he's locked in, like, oh, he's saying something that I can follow him to the ends of the earth with, regardless of any poor decision that he makes. I'll defend him. And he reminds me of that group of guys that we see right now, like those online dudes that are going to defend Elon, defend Trump, defend Andrew Tate over any and everything else. That was the vibes I got.
And honestly, what they did with him makes actually so much sense, because in the show they are literally sacrificed for his cause. Like, they literally are unalived. That is also true in real life. Like, all of these people who are idolizing Trump, those people don't care about. They don't care about you.
Nope.
They're not going to stick beside y'all. They're not going to hold you down.
Trump, he ain't bail out them January 6ers. He left y'all to die.
You are going to be fodder for their grand plan, just like the rest of us. And it's the same thing. Homelander doesn't like these people. He doesn't like humans at all.
Nope. Last thing I'll say is reviewers did come out and say like they turned the volume level up a little bit with the parody, and to an extent where like it's a little bit more in your face in certain moments this season. And some people had some concerns with it. Some of it was a little bit more bad faith because it was like it became even more clear about like who the showrunners were critiquing. But in other sense, other people were like, the subtlety of the parody is what sort of made it stand out in comparison to like other people that try to do it. I will say the reason why I personally don't have an issue with it is when shit hits the fan, like the subtlety does kind of go out the window a little bit.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Particularly when it comes to like fascism. It's too difficult to not just make the absurdity so blatant because it's already so much in our face.
I agree with that. I also think part of it is maybe they probably had some of this stuff planned out, but it's clear like this show is very responsive to what happens, right? Like they respond directly to the political events that happen in the real world, and they infuse them directly into the show. They got one season left to kind of say what they want to say. Where the show has just gone, like where they just landed things, is where we're at the brink of that right now. Like that's what this election is, right? Like we're at the brink right now. And I feel like personally, it is appropriate to yell it in our faces at this point. Because like, I like what a lot of people kept saying when they're watching the show was like, what's that Francesca? Like, you never thought the leopard would eat your face, that song that she always sings. That's exactly what we saw with Sage, with Neuman, with all these people who align themselves with these powerful people, thinking nothing of it, thinking nothing's going to happen, and then the leopard eats your face. Like you get you realize what you have aligned yourself. Well, okay, Sage doesn't care, but like with Neuman, and she didn't know about the camps that they were going, the internment camps with the prisons, or being, you know, forced to reveal her identity on live TV. Like, you didn't think that this was gonna happen. Like, you didn't take it seriously until it was too late. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
We are right there. Like, we're in a situation right now where everybody's not understanding the gravity of the situation that we could find ourselves in a few months. And personally, I don't mind a show like The Boys just throwing it in our face.
Yeah.
And being like, this is where we're at, just so you know. I also want to say something funny. The other day I was driving, and on the side of a building, I saw a poster that was like, Homelander is saving America. It wasn't like a billboard. It wasn't like an ad in a bus stop. It looked like a poster that a regular person just put on a building, but I don't think it was. I'm like, is this your marketing?
Yeah, I think they do stuff like that all the time on social media.
Yeah, I know, but I just never seen it in real life. I was like, this is funny.
Yeah.
But if you don't watch the show, you're like probably so confused.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. We are still trying to bring awareness to Khaled's GoFundMe campaign to get himself a little bit more set up in Egypt after being able to leave Gaza. So please, if you can, go to our link in our bio and you will see his GoFundMe right at the top of the page. We're trying to get to 20,000. Right now, he is at around 8,000. So some progress has been made and we could do more. So please go and support him if you can. Thank you.
Those are our thoughts on this season of The Boys. We'd love to hear what you all think. So let us know in the comments below. Thank you all so much, and we will see you all next time. Peace.